You're watching Eye on Africa here on France 24. Thanks for joining us. I'm Julia Kim. Your headlines this hour. South Africa deploys troops to contain what President Ramaphosa describes as unprecedented violence. 6 people were killed after several days of rioting sparked by the jailing of Jacob Zuma. A surge in COVID-19 cases in North Africa. Tunisia launches an appeal for donations to help its overwhelmed health system. New infections also on the rise in Morocco and Algeria. And a runaway success in Kenya. We'll tell you how one shoemaker has profited from the country's coronavirus lockdown later on in the show. First, we begin in South Africa, where President Cyril Ramaphosa has spoken out against what he calls the country's worst post-apartheid violence. Troops are being deployed to help police contain escalating riots and looting in 2 of its most densely populated provinces. At least 6 people have been killed and over 400 arrested. The violence was sparked by the jailing of former President Jacob Zuma for contempt of court last week. Nicolas Germain reports.
In Soweto, looters were seen taking many goods, including televisions and even large armchairs. The police fired rubber bullets. The unrest was initially sparked by the jailing of former President Jacob Zuma last week. But now it appears that the widespread looting is also a reflection of the high unemployment in the country that has worsened since the pandemic. Several people have been killed during the unrest. On Monday evening, President Cyril Ramaphosa addressed the nation.
There may have been some people who sought to agitate for violence and disorder along ethnic lines. We know that the majority of our people have, out of principle, refused to be mobilized along these ethnic lines.
The looting has occurred in 2 provinces, Gauteng, which includes Johannesburg, and Zuma's home province of KwaZulu-Natal.
I believe it's an opportunistic for other people. It cannot be the former president itself. There are some other things that are hidden behind that. Why the shops are being looted? Why are they taking stuff from the shops? That's the question. Why are they burning cars? So there is more to that.
The 79-year-old Zuma was sentenced to 15 months in jail for snubbing a probe into the corruption that stained his 9 years in power. He was a prominent anti-apartheid fighter and remains popular among many poor South Africans. Next week, he faces another corruption case relating to a $2 billion arms deal in 1999 when he was deputy president.
Well, turning now to Nigeria, and Lagos has warned of a potential 3rd wave of coronavirus. Residents breaking social distancing rules will face fines or even imprisonment. Lagos State has pledged to step up its vaccination campaign after detecting 1 case of the highly infectious Delta variant last week. Just 1% of residents there have received 2 doses of a COVID vaccine. Now, several states are sending aid to Tunisia to help fight a worrying surge in COVID cases. Over the weekend, Tunisia's embassy in France appealed for donations to help its overwhelmed health system. The country has the highest COVID-19 death rate in the region, according to the WHO. Concerns are mounting as well in a rise in cases in neighbouring Morocco and in Algeria, as Sharon Gaffney reports.
Empty streets in what's usually one of the busiest tourist destinations in Tunisia. Authorities have imposed lockdown measures in 6 regions as COVID infections surge.
They've introduced a lockdown in the middle of July, when people want to go out and shopkeepers are waiting for visitors so they can earn a living.
On Friday, Tunisia recorded 189 deaths, the highest daily toll since the pandemic began last year. Government officials are warning that the healthcare system is on the brink of collapse, with hospitals running short of beds and oxygen. With just 4% of the population fully inoculated, several nations, including the US, Libya and Turkey, have pledged to send aid and vaccine doses. Officials in Algeria are also warning that hospitals are close close to breaking point. Fewer than 1 in 10 people have been vaccinated, and cases have risen to an average of more than 800 a day, 4 times higher than this time last month. Among the latest cases, the newly elected Prime Minister is seen here on the left, who's now in quarantine after contracting COVID last week, just days after the formation of his new government. Authorities in neighbouring Morocco have been easing restrictions over the past month, resuming international flights and reopening public spaces in time for the summer season. Officials say the tourism sector lost more than €6 billion last year and isn't expected to fully recover for up to a decade. As holidaymakers begin to return, concerns over the Delta variant have prompted authorities to extend the country's state of emergency until at least the 10th of August.
Well, turning now to Ivory Coast, where its ruling party has reacted to a new alliance between two opposition leaders, Laurent Gbagbo and Henri Konan-Bédié. During a press conference, the RHDP party's executive director addressed various statements made by Gbagbo since his return to the country nearly a month ago. France 24's Anan Fajani was there.
The ruling party hadn't been very vocal about the circumstances of Laurent Gbagbo's return to Ivory Coast or the comments that he's made about Ivorian politics since June 17th. But a public meeting between opposition figures Gbagbo and Bédié last weekend, which consolidated their political alliance, was the last straw for the government after Laurent Gbagbo criticized incumbent Alassane Ouattara's decision to run for a third term in the country's latest presidential election. Adama Bictogo, the ruling RHDP party's executive director, has put his foot down. I quote, "We will not tolerate for anyone to disrespect the president's office." Adama Bictogo also called for a stop to divisive statements that are being made and insisted that the RHDP would not be complicit to a moral swindle. According to him, a national dialogue that will include all political actors in the country will only be possible if everyone acts in good faith. As for the political alliance formed by opposition leaders Laurent Gbagbo and Henri Konan-Bédié, Bictogo appeared unbothered as he claimed the alliance was merely circumstantial and temporary.
Well, as you've just heard there, they were once long-time political rivals, but today former Ivory Coast presidents Laurent Gbagbo and Henri Konan-Bédié are joining forces against President Alassane Ouattara. The two consolidated their alliance over the weekend with a face-to-face meeting in the central city of Daoukro. Hanan Fajani and Samuel Bernard followed it for us.
A highly symbolic meeting and a warm welcome. This scene takes place in Daoukro, Bédié's hometown in eastern Ivory Coast. Political rivals turned allies Henri Konan-Bédié and Laurent Gbagbo last met 2 years ago in the Belgian capital. This time, they decided to meet surrounded by their political supporters. The message is clear. The two opposition figures are now brothers working together.
Je veux apporter toutes mes forces, les forces qui me restent, à la réconciliation vraie de notre pays. Je vous donne toute ma confiance pour réaliser notre rêve ensemble.
On Saturday, it was Laurent Gbagbo's turn to address the crowd. The former president, who returned to Ivory Coast nearly a month ago after a 10-year absence, was once again warmly greeted by persons attending the meeting. The political figure did not shy away from mentioning the latest presidential election, a vote that was boycotted by the opposition as the incumbent Alassane Ouattara took the controversial decision to run for a third term.
Si vous vous battez pour être contre la Constitution, on ne peut dire qu'on n'est pas d'accord.
As for supporters from both sides of the political spectrum attending the event, the key word was reconciliation.
C'est son frère, il est venu de quelque part. Il vient lui dire bonjour. On n'a qu'à l'accompagner. C'est ça la réconciliation nationale.
Le Dieu qui le reçoit à Daoukro,
c'est important pour vous?
C'est un mot important même qui dépasse ma vie même. Je suis où je vis.
With 2 years to go before local elections in the country, the alliance between the two politicians could be a game changer for the Ivorian opposition.
And finally, coronavirus lockdowns kept many people indoors for months. But in Kenya, one outdoor activity was allowed, running. Now, this has benefited one shoemaker whose business has become a runaway success. Nicolas Jamin has his story.
Worldwide, the pandemic has hurt many economies, but some sectors have actually profited from it. This Kenyan athletics shoemaker has seen its sales rise. Many activities were banned because of the coronavirus, but not outdoor running. This company was founded 5 years ago thanks to an initial capital of $120,000 raised from a crowdfunding platform.
It's also about creating jobs, making sure that those jobs are local. And it might sound a bit nationalist, but coming from a country that is developing, a country where the rate of unemployment is high, people are basically graduating with big hopes, other people don't even make it to school, then it is upon us to create something that creates jobs.
Factory workers say they want these shoes to compete with international brands.
Everything that we make is coming from my country. I should be proud of that. I'm very much proud because an African country is producing a shoe to the world.
For years now, the East African nation has been dominating middle to long distance running. This company now hopes that more and more Kenyan athletics stars will choose to buy locally made running shoes.
And that's it from us here on Eye on Africa, but there's more news up next here on France 24.